welcome to CIMFest2019, and my name is Rod Obando, and is it movie magic or simulation? So we're going to be discussing various different things. So first off, this is what we're going to cover. I'm going to tell you a bit about myself, because there's a lot of new people here. We're going to cover like a brief overview. We're going to talk about the history of simulations, two types of simulations, conclusion, and then we're going to open up for questions. So about me. So you learned my name is Rod Obando. The R is for Raphael. I go by Rod because I'm named after my dad. He has the same name as me. I got my bachelor's in applied computer science May 2014 from here at Columbus State University. Applied just focuses on web design and mainframe. Work history. Straight out of college, I got hired for a web design program company. And then that lasted maybe 30 days because then I got hired by a different firm called Thesis. That didn't work out. Then I worked at GameStop for two years-ish. And actually, if you guys check out the Indie Rants, you guys get to hear some of the stories I'm going to be saying. And then my current job, I've been here 3.5 years for Columbus State University in the registrar's office, do database pulls, all sorts of verifications, make sure students are on track to graduate when advisors email me saying, this student needs this class right here. Currently, I'm working on my master's in applied computer science. I'm due to graduate next May, and with a concentration in software development. So how does a person with website, mainframe, and software development fit into simulations, right? So one of the requirements to graduate, you need to take Computer Science 6107, a survey of modeling and simulation. And one of the requirements for that class is you got to write a paper. So I wrote a paper on the various simulations. So, any Lord of the Rings fans in here? Anyone not seen Lord of the Rings or has seen it somehow? Okay, cool. So, I'm going to describe a sequence to y'all to kind of just get things going. So, big battle sequence. People are out at a fortress. Thousands of bad guys just walk in. You got elves, you got a dwarf, you got humans, all ready to man this fortress, right? So then, everyone launches their arrows, ready to fire. Bad guys are like hitting their chest and their armor and everything, just getting ready for battle, right? Next thing you know, some guy is too weak to hold his own arrow, fires the arrow, hits a bad guy falls down. Battle begins. Thus, Helm's Deep begins the battle for Middle-earth, right? So, raise your hand if you think those thousands of people were extras. No, that was a simulation. Crowd replication, guys. We're going to cover that too. So, by using agents to make different kinds of enemies and other races, they have the ability to replicate the scene to make it look like they're facing tens of thousands of people that were created to wipe out men. So we're going to cover when did the first simulation start in the entertainment industry, where are we now with them, and where are we going to go from here? So the biggest use of simulations is in entertainment, and it's various uses, and it's growing, as you just heard. So, who's ready for a history lesson? Let's get it started. The first ever simulation was in 1960. Germany designed a planned highway simulation to show, okay, we're going to build this highway. And they just were able to design it to show the simulation how long it's going to be, how long it's going to take to travel. 1971, a 2D animator did a short. 1977, very popular, Star Wars. They used little models to design the X-Wings and everything. They recorded in a big backdrop and designed explosions and everything to just make it look like, okay, we're about to undertake all this. 79, Alien, they used aliens to pop out of the people's stomachs and everything to make that effect like, okay, yeah, there's aliens here. 1982, Wrath of Khan, Star Trek II, particle simulations to simulate the explosion of the Genesis bomb. Voyage Home used another similar type of particle system and to make the whales, because back then they could not use actual whales to film, so they had to make the effect. Terminator 2, 1991. When they were trying to up the ante of the new Terminator, they wanted to see how they could do it. So they did like a liquid metal kind of thing. So the guy was able to stretch his arms, go through walls and everything. So all the actor had to do was provide the capture of the voice and everything, and then CGI did the rest. Fellowship of the Ring, this ties into all the different Lord of the Rings films for crowd replication. In Fellowship of the Ring, there was replication of birds and various different kinds of enemies. 2004, we had the first ever fully CG background, CG everything with the movie Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. The only real thing was the actors. They had to literally put their acting skills to the test. 2014, the Hobbit Battle of the Five Armies. That is to date, one of the largest replicated battle sequences, because you had like 5 different armies, and just the manpower it took to make that was quite the thing. 2018, Bohemian Rhapsody. Anyone seen that film? We're going to cover that one. Don't worry, no spoilers or anything, because it's actually a biopic. They use it to replicate a concert. So, types of simulations, particle systems. Definition, it depends on the application that it's being used for. In this case, we're going to talk about Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. And also, I'm going to touch briefly the secret weapons of Luthanoff, made by LucasArts. That's an 80s game. They use particle systems to simulate explosions, very subtle explosions of the airplanes, and if they were shooting on the ground. So anything that is like that is a particle. So this next photo is of the particle systems of the Wrath of Khan. They used 4 different systems, one to simulate the explosion of the planet, one of the impact of the bomb, of the Genesis bomb, and then the other one was just the underlying explosion, and then so on. So as you can see right here, is the different stages of the particle system. As you see, it hits right in here. That's the particle system. It's designed using CGI computers to do this. So if you have taken a computer graphics course at any point, you probably can kind of do this. So I know if you're a Columbus State University student, and you're in games programming, you took computer graphics and Games 1. So you learn how to design similar things like this. Crowd replication. Very common with live action animated films. The first known one was The Lion King in the 90s. They used it to replicate the stampede effect. So they took all the wildebeest and just replicated them down. That took about 5-6 years to design. So that took some time. So what we're going to cover right now is one of the latest replications of Bohemian Rhapsody. One of the things that actually happened in real life was I'm not sure, some of you may have heard of it, the Live Aid concert, where billions of performers were performing. Again, when you're doing this film, you can't get the amount of people that you need to do this. You can't get thousands and thousands of people. So what they did is they rebuilt the stage out in middle of nowhere, and then they recorded people. They said, okay, you're going to be jumping. You're going to be fist bumping. You're going to be doing this. You're going to be acting crazy. So they took sets of people, and then if you look closely, you can actually probably see the same people. So they took that set, put it here, put it somewhere, and they kept replicating until you got the effect of a full arena. Thus, the final product of the film. So picture this now with Lord of the Rings, Battle of Helm's Deep. You got tens of thousands of bad guys. So while they're filming, they had an X amount of people, but then they took them back to a soundstage. Said, you're going to be doing this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. Okay, and then they take it to the computers people that know how to replicate things, replicate it, and then you got the effect of, now we're just going to get our butts handed to us, right? Or we're at a live concert. Conclusion. Entertainment is the biggest use of simulations, as we learned. Crowd replication for battles, even concerts. Games use crowd replications too, to replicate if you're going in for a mass fighting. Anyone play something like Batman Arkham games or Call of Duty? Or how about any of the sports games? Those are crowd replication too, because they're replicating the stadiums of the crowds. You're replicating the enemies coming to fight at you. So it dates back to the 1960s, and then particle systems is an example. You got crowd replications. Filmmakers and game developers are always researching things. Like we may have the latest, greatest thing for like that was used last year for Bohemian Rhapsody, but there's stuff that when you see another film coming out, how do they do that? That's one of the new things that are being discovered for that. So references, we were required to use educational literature, so I had to go and actually look them up. So, questions?
So is creating simulations for both games and in film a specific job for a specific person, or does one person with multiple skill set get to do that job?
It's a group of people. It's a team. So they're all computer graphics artists or animators, whatever. Depends on the studio you're at. They do it. So the filmmakers, the director, in this case, or whoever is directing the game, has the idea. They take it to the artist. The artist gives them a rough sketch. They take it to the computer animators. The computer graphics people are using various technologies to design it. They can use Blender, Unity, those are just like basic ones, but there's more complex ones that they use to replicate or make the particle system. Like the particle one is a constant moving motion, right? So you have to design the motion of something hitting impact and then of the explosion coming out. And then you have to, for the crowd replication, I said, you got to record the people and then you got to mass replicate it. So it's not necessarily one person just working on it, but it's also a group of people just working together to make it happen.
So I'm just going to add, one point I want to add, and I know very little about what Rod just talked about actually, but with any task when you're trying to do it, often you just do whatever you need to do to get the job done. And I'm going to use an example. In 2006, I was stuck on this stupid game called Sproink, and we had exactly 4 32-strip animations. And I made a crowd scene from that. That was at the end of each level with them even falling off bridges and stuff. It was really a horrible little game called Sproink. But basically just by resizing the characters, there was an old man, there was like a man and a kid.
Hey Joe, I'm going to interrupt you. Can you do it on mic? Can you go talk about that stuff on the mic?
No, I'm almost done. Anyway, the point is, really just by changing the size, the speed that they walked, and everything randomly within parameters, I got this beautiful crowd scene that was kind of fun. And even randomly people falling off. So, and you just do what you have to do at the time. And this was with a crap system that had no particle systems, had nothing.
You were still not almost done.
Yes, I was.
Okay, so I'll add a couple too, and then Joe can come back and repeat this for the stream. So there are some other ways to do this too. So who here are game devs or game artists? Because we've had to do these cheats as well, and when you're on a team that doesn't have much budget, you can't afford a full Lord of the Rings sequence, believe it or not. But Joe talked about some of the basic programmatic ways to do it. There are also ways to do programmatic color swaps. So you might have a limited number of figures, but suddenly you're intermixing shirt colors, pants colors, skin colors, and you're numbers go up exponentially. And it makes a big difference. This is especially good if you're controlling the camera angle and how far folks are coming in and going out, or if you're relatively cartoony anyway in your design. And that way you can cheat the system, not have a million different models, do it with a handful of models. Oh, you're going to run the stream now?
No.
You can come up here, we can argue.
No.
We're good at that.
I'm just going to add to your point.
So always think about different ways to save that dollar sign. It's not just dollar resources, it's also your memory. If you're working on a game that for whatever reason needs a small data footprint, you want to limit especially the number of models and animations because those will eat it up. And I mean, obviously a high-def texture, high-resolution texture is going to eat into it too, but if you can cheat these things and have the coding doing it, great way to save memory.
Right. So what I was going to add is one of the beautiful things about all of this, it's
Me especially.
And I was a math major in college. I took only one computer course and didn't really start in computers till 2 years after I graduated. So I love it when beautiful math kicks in. And when I was doing that Sproink march across the bridge, that was again it was a horrible thing, but they actually followed the path of the bridge too, so that was kind of cool. And we made 5 different bridges for them to do, and it's all math. So math buys you tons because then you just tweak an equation and you get some more stuff. I was in a meeting literally when somebody complained that all my Sproinks that there was slippage in the walking, and I'm on the phone because I'm working remotely, and I go, oh, that'll be just a tweak to the math, I'm sure. He goes, oh, no, I think actually it was like an art guy.
Oh, always blaming the art team.
Whatever, but he said something like, oh, no, you're going to have to adjust each one individually and so forth. And then another programmer chimed in, he says, yeah, I think you're going to have to check each one individually. And I said, no, I'm pretty sure it's just math. And the meeting went on, and about 15 more minutes later, and they asked at the end of the meeting, did it have any other comments? And I said, yeah, you can just go get the current build and take a look at it because it's already done. And it looks pretty damn good, I think. And if you have any problems with it, then, come back and I'll do them, one at a time. And I never had to. Yeah. Math is pretty when it works because it's the difference between close and not close. And one last one of this. So I took over this stupid project, worst game I ever get stuck on, because I became the physics guy, even though it wasn't a real physics engine. And the one thing I did that unfortunately sealed my fate for a year and a half of working on this stupid game is I went in and did one little tweak where there was this ball that went up like this. And the problem is they adjusted its velocity based at every step. And when they did that, they had a problem at 0, so that it sort of did this and sort of didn't, look like maybe even hit a ceiling that wasn't there and then came down. It just didn't look good. So I changed it to always calculate from the original thing until it hit something. And when it did that, instead of doing this little thing that was almost right, it did math. It was awesome. So that's all. Math buys you tons, which is why they do crowd scenes. So.
There's another math cheat you can do called levels of detail. So especially when you're having different zoom levels for the player to access. When you're in close, you want the objects or characters, whatever, to look as good as possible. But as you pull away, the player's seeing more of them, less detail. You don't have to continue to render all those details. You can drop those out. And with the further they pull back, the more the crowd's seen, and the more you can drop out. And it's hilarious working through models. What are you going to drop out from these models? And some companies actually swap out textures, but you can just start dropping off parts of your models, which is really fun. So obviously, the smaller things, hands and feet can go first. And then slowly you're pulling back, you're dropping off more and more parts of their body as the player looks further and further out. And this saves you a few different things. A, it means that you're not eating up as much memory, but more importantly, people think that they're seeing more and more different things because you're dropping off weirder and weirder things. So if you've already used your coding to give yourself so many more models with colors and other cheap programming variations, now they're getting variations to some degree in what drops off. And one of the things that upset me when I saw the Phantom mess up in theaters was that their battle scenes with their mass combat scenes, we had friends in the game industry doing better looking mass combat scenes in game engines than Lucas did at that point in Phantom mess up. So we were, it was one of the many cringe points of that movie. But when you're doing these games, and you do have to include a lot of different figures in there, there are a number of things you have to control for, and there are a lot of ways to save yourself pain and agony. And the other big thing now, of course, are the asset stores. I mean, we love the Unreal store and the Uni store because you can just buy so many now, and then you can go in and carve them up as you need and start dropping off body parts, which is why it's great to make horror games so zombies can just drop off body parts all the time, not even level of detail required. And it's always fun to change out monsters just on these various details. So sorry to hijack your presentation, but back to you.
But now to answer the question, the beginning title was movie magic or simulation. Okay, so this is my thing. They're the same. Just movie magic is what you tell your little ones. It's gonna be like, tell your kids, Tooth Fairy is gonna come over tonight and give you something. That's what you tell your kids. Mom and Dad had movie magic. When they get older, that's when you can start breaking it down to simulations. Okay, particle systems, crowd replications. So, any other questions? We got anything in chat?
Not right now.
Can I try one? Rod, I'm a middle school teacher. I got my bachelor's at Columbus State, and I just recently finished my master's in education. But so I'm a middle school teacher, and so my question is, a lot of my students, they play video games, and so like this summer, last year, I learned to play Fortnite at 58 years old. So I can empathize with them. I actually had some Fortnite vocabulary worksheets. But my question is, I see in your story that you went on, got your education, got a job. So is there any advice you can give me that I can take a 14-year-old out of just staying up 3 o'clock in the morning playing video games to doing something productive, when they're that age?
Well, this is a little bit more of my backstory, but to be honest, in high school, I was just probably like your students. I didn't care, but it took years and years for me to actually care for my education. Granted, I did graduate high school in 2008 from Hardaway, and then didn't finish my bachelor's till 2014. I went to change my major a bunch of times and didn't just. So, long story short, it took me to go to a technical school to figure out what I wanted to do. Granted, I did love doing websites because Hardaway had a strong website teacher that taught it well. So if you can find out what their niche is, what they want to do, then maybe say, okay, so let's find something for you. Like, I don't know. Say if they want to go to game development, right? Just throw that out there because you see they're playing Fortnite, right? Send them to events like CIMFest, or in October, at the Atlanta chapter, they run Siege, which is a Southern Interactive Entertainment Gaming Expo, and they do have a college fair where all the different colleges from the how many colleges? Like 5, 6, something like that. We have at the
College fair,
yeah.
it's usually about 6 to 10.
Yeah, 6 to 10 colleges, so they can explore the different ones. Columbus State is there every year. We have a booth set up. We're promoting not just the games programming, but promote all the programs we have. But we mainly try to get those that are interested in games programming to come here to promote our program. So they got to find what they want. Granted, there are some students that can play video games all night long and somehow make A's, which to me that's a mystery still to this day. With me, when I was working on my undergrad, I had to towards the very end, I had to discipline myself. I had to say, okay, I can't stay up all night. I can't do all this. I got to focus. And especially when it comes to master's program, as you may know, it's a little bit more intense, more work. Granted, you'll find a class like I did, 6107, Server Model and Simulation, that is tons of fun, which I thought I was going to struggle with. But then the teacher made it make sense, which I'm going to give credit to my professor here, Dr. Anastasia Angelopoulou. She's from Greece. She made this thing make 100% sense, walked me through this project. So, and actually made an A in the class. So, also, if they find a professor that can make it understandable, I'm going to brag right here. He's my own dad, Dr. Obando back there, from what I heard. There's some alumni here for games. From what I heard, they walk out of there, they know Unity like it's like the greatest thing, or they walk out knowing things about computer graphics like, oh, wow.
So we have other students here. They can talk about what that got them interested in making rather
So, hi, I'm Greatzel. I'm from Georgia Gwinnett College, and I study IT and cybersecurity. But before that, I was a psychology major. I took it for 3 years. And one thing that I've learned when it comes to motivation, because I think that's what you're trying to talk about, like you want your kid, this 14-year-old, to be more interested in things that are more productive. I think if you give this 14-year-old a chance to explore something that he's good at, if it's something, I don't know, game art, programming, coding, and he sees he's good at it, it will make him feel rewarded, and he would want to do it more. What else can I say? I lost the train of thought, but, oh yes. I also think that it's also because of instant gratification. That's why we play games, and I think that's important to think about when we want younger people to be interested in something that is more on a technical side. What got me interested in game development, honestly, it was the leadership opportunity in our school. So I met them and I realized, I've been playing games a lot and I can do art. And this place looks like it had a place for leadership, and that's how I got interested. And the community was so amazing, also because of GGDA and the work of the people here, that I fell in love with it, and that's why I'm still here. So like he said, it would be great to like keep inviting them to events like Siege and CIMFest, and even the monthly events of GGDA would be great. Yeah, thank you.
And I would introduce them to tools.
Hey, Joe, get up.
Joe! So, just a second on tools. So, tools is what matters to me. I'm really old school, so I wanted to work with people, even when I went to college. My view was limited. I thought I wanted to be a teacher because my family, my mom was a school nurse and I was close to all the teachers and all that. But I also wanted to go to a good math school because I hated the fact that my high school teachers couldn't answer simple questions, what I thought was simple questions. Like, nobody could explain to me why you really couldn't trisect an angle. They just told me it was impossible, but they couldn't tell me why. So I went to college just to be a teacher. I took one computer course, it was on key punch, and it didn't bore me. I actually aced it. I actually taught really smart people about computers, and I was amazed that really smart people can be really, really smart, like in chemistry and physics and other stuff, but they still don't understand a simple computer language, which to me has always been, that's a light switch, you turn the light on, and the light comes on. That's every language I've ever dealt with in computers. And some people just don't get that. They see a for loop and they go crazy, okay? But I came up here to tell you this. So I then did that. I did regular programming for a while, business programming. It's 81 or 84, I think, and I make a little Othello game because I hated the fact that when you play Othello, if you make a wrong move, you're dead. So I wanted to create a little computer simulation that lets two people play Othello so you could back out your moves and so forth. But it was such a painful thing to do. The tools still weren't there. Didn't have much fun. I got it to work. Still didn't do games. A few years later, same thing. I finally did games because C was coming around. I was a COBOL programmer, sort of, but I was really this proc language guy, had nothing to do with games. I wanted to teach myself C. I picked games because I love puzzles. I love playing cribbage, I love that stuff, and I picked doing a game just so that I had something interesting to do while learning C. But then I fell in love with creating my own games and, having fun. But it's only because the tools get better. And in this last year and a half, I've been putting off going to Unity for years now. I feel like I'm 23 again because Unity is so freaking good. And the nice thing is, it's free. So figure out a way to introduce them to Unity and let them just start playing with it. And they can go, there's so much information online. They can form their own little groups and they can start doing something. They can actually, within an hour, they can just follow a tutorial, put a stupid ball in the middle and watch it drop, or watch it bounce off something. That will freak them out. And the ones that it matters to, you'll have hooked them for life. You'll have given them their free drug and, like they all give away and, and then they'll be hooked. They'll come back. But again, Unity is free, and the tools are just freaking awesome. Blender's free. They did the talk on that yesterday. The tools are just so awesome. I thank God, I used to be an atheist at one point, I'm not, but I thank God that the tools did not exist when I was in high school, because I would not be social. I would have never left my room. Because they're that good. And again, they're free. So that's the crux to your question. Just get them on the tools and then get them somebody to talk to that, can answer questions on it.
Little promotion for Joe. One of the last sessions we'll do here at CIMFest at the end is a Unity 101 with it's Joe and Dr. Obando. They'll be talking about their experiences with Unity, and they'll be taking your questions.
So another thing we're seeing with people who are playing Fortnite and the like is that esports competitors and esports playing in general is becoming a pipeline into the game industry. So the studios in Georgia are already hiring significantly out of their gaming community now that they've gotten into esports. And some of these are artists, some of these are coders, some of these are play testers, but more commonly now it's community managers, it's streamers, it's folks to help on the technical side in general. And some of them are saying like about 30% of their new hires are coming out of their gaming community as opposed to traditional hunt for programmers and whatever. So if they are gaming, they can also be streaming, they can also be monitoring their community, they can also be putting up YouTube channel and learning these skills. And they're jobs that didn't exist 10 years ago. I mean, community management was one we never considered in the past. Of course, social media in general and all these live streaming tracks that are now real professions that the Fortune 500 companies are seeking people to be a part of. So pretty amazing transition. And the only place where you're getting these skills now are in that community. The other thing about Fortnite is that Unity is a great tool. There are other tools like Game Maker, which is pretty simple. My daughter is 4 and she can play around in Scratch pretty well. So, Fortnite is done in a tool called Unreal, which is a bit more complicated than Unity, but is also free. And if he's loving Fortnite, so you can say, here is that tool, and you can do tutorials for that. Game Maker, Fusion is another one that's very easy to start developing games in. And the other great thing is all of these now come with assets that they can use for free, and then you can get a lot more assets online. And then they can start figuring out if they want to be programmers, artists, designers, streamers, whatever, casters, etc. All right, done hijacking.
But if they want to learn how to do simulations, software like AnyLogic is one that's perfect. And there was another one that I used in this class, but AnyLogic was the one we used for most of the time. And it's pretty much, it's like a flowchart. And you give the parameters and everything. I can get you the name of the other software we use because it's more of a 3D simulation where you put actual, you can grab photos of people, put them in there. Like we had to simulate a airplane taking off. So from point of security check-in to the various different stages to the gate and then the plane taking off. So that was one of the projects I did in that class. And then the other one was in a bank simulation. People waiting in a queue of a line, waiting to go bank the deposits, or, they need just to make a withdrawal of an ATM, they go this route. So all that is, you design it, you put your if statements, for loops, whatever, and it just makes it happen. Any other questions?
What's your favorite crowd scene of all time that you went, wow, that's just amazing?
Favorite crowd scene? There's many. I mean, depends on where I was in my life, but let's see. I'd have to say the one I opened with, the Battle of Helm's Deep with Lord of the Rings, because back then when they were filming it, it was the 90s, when they didn't come out until 2001, 2002, 2003. So then Two Towers was 2002. I remember going into the theater, I'm like, I had read the book. I'm like, okay, this is cool and all. How are they going to do this? And then next thing you know, I'm like, holy moly. They made 10,000 orcs marching from Isengard, which is where they're coming from, all the way to Helm's Deep. I'm like, wow. That's and then later on to find out, I'm like, when I'm watching the special features of the movie, I'm like, so you're telling me they only had 20 people right there, and then they use computer graphics people to just, so, And then secondary, you know, would be the. I'm a huge biopic movie person, so chances are, if there's a biopic of a musician, I have seen it myself, with the exception of Rocket Man. That's one I have not seen yet. Watching Bohemian Rhapsody in the theater, like, you know, knowing the knowledge that I hadn't taken this class before, but knowing the knowledge that I had going to the movie, I'm like, yeah, that's similar effect to what they did in Lord of the Rings. I mean, granted, they used IMAX shots as opposed to your standard shots. The technology has changed, so it looks a little bit more different than it would back then. So if they were to do Lord of the Rings now, the technology is so much better. I mean, I bet you they could just have two people fighting all these other people and then do the same effect.
What's your favorite in games?
Favorite in games?
I want to see a Fortnite dance. I'm still waiting for that.
Is that part of this?
No.
Camera going.
Isn't like the floss from...
Favorite games? Wow, that's
The favorite crowd scene in the game.
Don't say Sprite.
no. I've never played that. I would say any of the war games, Call of Duty or Medal of Honor. Gonna say Medal of Honor because that was like the first war game I actually played. When you're storming the beach of Normandy, you have all these people in the boats and everything, so they have to replicate the boats. Then you have all the army men passing out right next to you, and then you have the Germans on the other side that are, you know, because you're taking over France on D-Day. So to me, that just amazed me how they can did that. Like Medal of Honor Frontline came out in like the early 2000s. And then they did that in Call of Duty World War II, which now with the more advanced technology does look a lot better, but still for Frontline, for the way it was done, for the replication, that's hands down probably one of the best ones I've played. Because if you're going through all that, you're going through France and Europe campaign in there, they're replicating everybody. You know, they have one model of a guy holding a particular weapon, and then they're replicating him. I mean, you have snipers, you have all these things, so. Anything else? Got anything from chat yet?
Nope, no chat questions yet.
Maybe you could simulate a chat question.
Fred 101 from Arkansas asked.
But yeah, with Fortnite, I honestly, I don't play. The only closest thing I have to a battle royale game I play is I play Call of Duty Black Ops 4 with my brother. We play the Blackout, but that's the only battle royale I play. I don't play Fortnite. That's, you know, you're too younger of a generation. So when you go in there, they're gonna cuss you out. I'm like, okay, good for you. You want a cookie?
Did you play Minecraft? That's a good lead into game dev too.
Yeah, Minecraft I played.
All those kids who create their Minecraft servers.
Yeah, for sure.
They're budding game devs, they're budding IT.
Yeah, Minecraft is a fun one. You know, you start making things left and right. Yeah, I play that on PC, Xbox, PlayStation. No, that's actually on every system. So.
Yep, no chat questions.
Okay. Well then, I guess that's it.